your job title should not define you. Those are the things that that's what you've done, but it's not who you are. It's either you work to build somebody else's dream, or you can work to build your own.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Netface Podcast. Today, we have Sandy joining us as guest. Sandy is a career ownership coach. She's an advocate for career independence, helping professionals explore business ownership and franchising as vehicle for freedom, fulfillment, and control. She combines decades of experience, entrepreneurship, expertise, and deep care for people. Sandy's passion is helping clients find their financial engine that supports the life they truly want. Welcome to Next Week Podcast. And Sandy, it's nice having you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be included. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So for us men that are meeting you for the first time, how do you find your journey into career ownership and how does your coaching journey begin?
Sure. Yeah. So it's, I've had a long career. Started in working in my family business. I helped to grow and scale that business. It was in the language services industry, and I was there for close to 35 years. So it was pretty interesting. Learned a lot. And then moved on from there. And I guess it was around 2021 and joined Microsoft. I joined as a senior business operations manager in the monetization and business planning team. So it was a really great opportunity to kind of go from small business into kind of large tech corporation, doing something entirely different, but really kind of pushed my boundaries. I really enjoyed it, but my timing for joining a tech firm, unfortunately, was not great because, as everyone knows, kind of towards the end of 2023 or I guess in 2023 was when many of the layoffs started happening.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, I was caught up in one of the reductions in force and I was laid off at the end of 2023. So, it's not a great experience. I don't think that anybody looks forward to that, but it really did give me that opportunity to kind of rethink and reassess my career one more time, and to really think about what I wanted to do. And I think really reached the point where I realized that I did not want to work for someone else. Again, I was really to the point in my career where I had spent plenty of time working, in small business and then in that corporate environment, and then realizing I'm ready for something new. So that's kind of what led me to the path of working with a coach from the entrepreneur source. And he was able to help me identify some different opportunities. And ultimately, I was fortunate enough to be able to join the entrepreneur source as a career ownership coach.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is wonderful. So you've just tasted the bit of like working in a family business and also in the corporate world, and now you are into entrepreneurship. So, how does your experience shape your passion for helping others pursue career independence?
Yeah. Well, I think I don't think that anybody seeks to be in career transition in their mid 50s, and it's not just once but twice. And so, I can say I definitely empathize with what many of my clients are going through, because there's so many of them who are dealing with career transition, job loss, or perhaps they're stuck in a really toxic environment, and they're really just looking for kind of what's that next step for me. And like, I don't even know where to go. And so I think because I've been through some, situations in my own career and felt that uncertainty that many of us reach when we're in transition, trying to figure out what we want to do and not wanting to make a misstep. I think that it does help me to connect with my clients, and they do feel that empathy. And as we're able to work together to determine what's going to be best for them, they really do feel that I understand what they're going through. And so I think that that empathy and that compassion for what they need in their lives, it really does shine through. So I'm grateful. I mean, it's tough to go through layoffs and things like that, but I'm grateful to be able to take those difficult experiences, learn from them, and move forward and help others as a result.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that most of the people I know, when you have lived through that experience, you have those lived experience, it's kind of easier to walk other people through because you have walked on that path before. So I like that. And also, you also spoke about having that empathy to be able to guide other people that are in that phase of what am I going to do next? I've been doing this for the past 10 years, 20 years. So what is the next step for me? Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. Yeah. You often talk about career ownership. When I read your post on LinkedIn and the rest, how is that different from being self-employed?
Sure. Yeah, career ownership and the way that we talk about it within the entrepreneur source is really about taking ownership for your future. And it is, many of us will go through life. We could potentially get pigeonholed into a specific role or a specific industry, and then realize that we're just kind of, taking that path of least resistance instead of taking ownership and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm either tired of doing this, or maybe I'm not happy anymore and I'm ready for a new challenge, or maybe I'm just looking for a new learning opportunity. And so, what is it that you can do as an individual to take ownership of your career and say, hey, I'm going to make a choice that's going to be the best for me, for my family, and for my future? And so, that's what career ownership is all about. So, while I do, career coaching, for example, I don't do a whole lot of work in terms of helping individuals with resume prep and LinkedIn optimization. That's just not my area of expertise. But I can provide a lot of kind of thoughtful questions and coaching that helps my clients to find out and just really think about their career in a much different way, with a different lens, and really exploring with an idea that they're open to possibilities instead of continuing to think of themselves just as one role. I had a client one time who told me that, well, I am a project manager. I'm like, okay, fair. You've been doing project management for 20 years. I can understand how you would really take that in, but your career role, your job title should not define you. Those are the things that that's what you've done, but it's not who you are. And I think to
Yeah.
help clients to kind of reframe that for themselves, it really does open up a whole new world of possibilities for them.
Yeah, yeah, I like that because sometimes some people even are in kind of career just because definitely we need to earn money. It might not be what they are really passionate about. So they might not really own it. They might just doing it. They might be doing it to get paid, to earn a living and things like that. So I like saying what you said, that owning it is very important, and you can decide that, okay, this is the best for me. This is the best for my family. Yeah. And I know that the major thing that usually happen why people find it difficult to own their career is maybe fears or misconceptions. So, what are the fears, or what fears do you see most often when people start exploring career ownership?
Yeah, I think that when I'm working with a client and I am seeing some fears cropping up, many times it'll come from they're trying something new that they've never tried before, and that can be a little unsettling. I think trying something outside of a traditional W-2 job or a corporate job can be a little bit. Challenging to even think about, like, could I potentially own my own business? Is this something that is appropriate for me? Is this the right time in my life? Do I have the right funding to be able to start a new business? Those are all the things that we explore. So I think what's really important is the process that we have within the entrepreneur source. Our primary goal as coaches is to help our clients to find their point of clarity, whatever that is for them. And it may or may not include business ownership. So we're here to support, to walk alongside, and to really help our clients explore, kind of what's out there without getting kind of stuck. But yeah, fear can often keep people mired in in a position where there is no decision. And you've often heard the phrase that indecision is a decision. So to be just kind of stuck in this no man's land where you're not making a decision, you're not moving backward, not moving forward, and that can be really tough too. So it's kind of helping my clients to think about things in a new way to help them get unstuck, because I've certainly been there. I know what it's like. So,
Yeah. So, for people that are maybe after those discussion, after having those conversation with them to work on their affairs, and they finally decide to go into, or maybe they finally want to consider business ownership, or maybe they want to go into franchising and things like that, what mindset shift do they need to really consider before going into business ownership?
yeah. I think the biggest thing is to, again, to kind of redefine yourself, and to not pigeonhole yourself into just like, well, I've always done this, I've always had this type of job, and to think about the fact that every experience that you've had in your life has brought you to this moment, this crossroads, whatever it could be. And so all of those skills that you've developed, hard skills, soft skills, all of the experiences you have, those are things that you take with you throughout your life and throughout your career. And so really kind of cataloging those. I mean, I actually had a career coach that I worked with a while back who helped me to think about myself in that way, because I think many of us, when we're going through a career transition, we tend to get, we may be experiencing anxiety or depression. We may kind of forget what it is that we bring to the table, because we've been told, hey, you're no longer needed here, and that can affect your confidence. So helping my clients to rediscover that confidence and to think about, oh, okay, well, all right, this is what I've done before, but look at all the things that I've built and the things that I know and that I can own from those experiences. And how could I potentially take those things forward into owning a business for myself? There are many skills that are transferable. And in many cases, I'll have individuals who have been directors, senior directors, VPs, of very large corporations, and they say, well, I've never owned a business before, but they have essentially operated a small business within a very large corporation, because they're managing budgets, they're managing people, they're making hiring and firing decisions, so there's a lot of different aspects of just operating in a corporate role that you can take with you into owning a business. And then, of course, doing things very deliberately and thoughtfully, never rushing. I That's one of the things that I very much pride myself in, is that my client's journey is their own and the timeline is their own. And so if they're in a hurry to, because they're just like, okay, I have made a decision, I do not want to stay, this is a horrible toxic situation, I need to get out, or I just lost my job and I'm ready to take the leap, I'm happy to move quickly to help them identify something very quickly. But many of my clients actually need a lot more time to be thoughtful about that decision, and really think about, does this fit, does this make sense for them?
Yeah. Because sometimes when you were talking about maybe somebody being a director and executive in a big corporation and now thinking of a small business. So sometimes people are scared of starting from scratch. Maybe
Yeah.
they are used to having an assistant, they are used to having different team work together. And sometimes when you want to start a small business, it might be you, like you might be the everything in that organization. You might be the accountant, you might be the admin assistant and the rest. So many people think that entrepreneurship means that we are starting from scratch. How
Mhm.
does franchising change this narrative?
Yeah, that's a great question. Having been in a small business where it was something that was started from scratch, where we had to figure out everything from top to bottom, like from our vendors, how do we do things, how do you negotiate contracts, all the different things you have to do in an independent business can be a bit of a challenge. It's not impossible, certainly, but the difference is in franchising is that it is the concept of being in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself. So you have all of the support, the training, the ongoing coaching and development that happens within a franchise organization. They will usually provide access to marketing materials, or perhaps even handle marketing for you. They'll usually provide websites and different systems and processes that are all set up in order for you to succeed. And then, kind of that secret sauce that a lot of people don't realize that is the benefit of franchising is, in addition to all of the support that you receive from your franchisor, you also receive a significant amount of report or support from your fellow franchisees, which is something that I never really anticipated. From the time that I joined the Entrepreneur Source as an independent franchisee, it was really exciting to see that not only was my franchisor providing so much help for me to succeed as an individual business owner, but all of my fellow franchisees, the experience coaches, even the coaches that I had gone through training with, we're all there for each other, because that really, with any franchise brand, you're going to experience that, because now you have all of these people, you have this huge community that is working together to support and build and expand this particular brand.
Mm,
And when you're doing that, it's kind of when you're all rowing in one direction,
mm,
there really
yeah.
is no competitiveness. And that's something I was just surprised, pleasantly surprised to see. And it's one of the things that I talk to my clients about is like, yeah, that's kind of that secret thing that a lot of people don't consider, is that
Mm,
when you're in a franchise system, you have this instant community of support and help. And sometimes you're just like, you're having a bad day. You just need to
yeah.
talk to somebody,
Someone to call
and
immediately. Yeah.
at
Yeah.
any given time, I probably have about a dozen people that I can reach out to, or even my own coach that I have through the Entrepreneur Source, to say, "Hey, I need help. I'm having a rough time, or I need help with this, or this new technology is confusing." Whatever it is, there's always somebody there to help, and that's just not going to happen in an independent business. You really, yes, everything is, you get to decide. You have full autonomy to decide everything, but it's also all that weight is on your shoulders to figure out. And it can be a difficult and overwhelming place if you've never owned a business. So I think for people who have never had a business, franchising is a great way to get started and to be able to help you, to kind of enter into the world of business ownership, but with a little bit of support.
Okay. Yeah. And thanks for sharing that. And what mistakes do people commonly make when they are exploring franchising on their own? Because there are so many franchises out there. Some people
Yeah.
might be like, okay, which one should I go for? So, what mistake do they typically make when making those decisions on their own?
Yeah, well, I think when you're exploring franchise ownership independently, first of all, it can get very overwhelming. I mean, there are literally several thousand brands across the United States. There are some that maybe are emerging brands, so they're brand new and they're really not. They may be in the future they're going to be good businesses, but the business model isn't as proven as it could be for other brands that have been around much longer. And then just not really having any guidance and knowing like what makes sense, what kind of royalty structure makes sense, what kind of expenses make sense. Like you're really kind of wandering around in the dark if you're doing it on your own. And then also just even something as simple as territory checking. When I'm working with my franchise partners and I'm reaching out and asking for territory checks on behalf of a client, the response is really great. But I just had a situation where a client came to me and they said, "Look, I've been searching for a franchise for a few months, and I've been doing all the legwork myself." And they were so frustrated. They said, French, they weren't getting good feedback or any responses. It was really confusing. They weren't sure like which are the good franchises versus which are the ones that are going to be more of a challenge for them.
Mm,
And so they just felt very lost. And so that's where somebody who is a coach, we can help. And because we have more of our focus is more on educating our clients and creating awareness around those possibilities rather than being very salesy and pushy, which can happen sometimes in more of a broker environment. Not saying anything bad about brokers, of course, because they play an important part in this whole ecosystem. But having a coach that focuses on your education, and I think backing up a step too, focuses on whether or not business ownership or franchising is even the right step for you. It might not be. In
yeah.
many cases, it's not.
Okay. And when we are talking about business ownership, so many people see business ownership as a kind of financial engine for the life you want. You feel that maybe if you have a business, you get to spend the money the way you like it and the rest. Can you unpack what that means when you are owning a business? It might be franchising, it might be a business you start from the scratch.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think that a lot of people assume that when they go into a business, they need to be passionate about it or they need to know a lot about that industry. And I think what's really interesting, an interesting notion, is to really think about, because part of the way that we approach our whole coaching program is really thinking about, how do our clients, what are their goals, what are their short term and long term goals? We look at it from an income perspective. Lifestyle is super important too. And so if you want to have a lifestyle where you have more flexibility to be able to spend time with your kids or your family or to do fun things and be able to go on vacations, on from time to time, um, you're going to want to look for a business that is going to be able to support that lifestyle. And many people just assume, well, I need to be passionate about this, or I need to have an enormous amount of experience in this industry. And it's actually not the case. What we are finding is that if you can find a business that meets, kind of meets all the criteria, kind of checks all those boxes from an income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity perspective, then that allows you, that's what becomes that financial engine that supports your lifestyle, right? It supports the future that you want for yourself and for your family, rather than assuming that you have to know a ton about that particular industry. And then I think that's also what separates franchising from let's say an independent business, is that in a franchise system, it's actually not necessary to have any background or experience in that industry. One of the best measures of success in a franchise business is the ability to follow that proven business model and execute on that model. And more often than not, if you have somebody who comes into a business where they have an extensive background in that industry, they're not they're probably not going to be as likely to follow that business model because they're like, I know better. I've done this. I've been a roofer. I've been a landscaper, whatever it is. I've been in, I've owned a plumbing company. Whereas if you're going into a franchise system, now you're more likely to be successful, and you're more apt to have a better experience if you go in eyes wide open, with that growth mindset and being willing to accept and follow that proven business model. So,
Yeah, yeah. Have you also come across maybe clients or people that they decide to go into that business, but because they don't really have enough experience in that field, maybe they decide to hire like a general manager that manage the aspect that they don't really understand, and they just be maybe the director or the CEO.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. There are many brands that support either a CEO or executive model, or even something that we refer to in the franchising industry as a semi absentee business model. And that's actually what's really kind of great about it, because it allows somebody to come in, perhaps somebody who has the capital, but maybe they still want to keep their full time job.
Mm.
Or they want to keep a part time consulting gig and have their own business on the side. Or maybe they're just hedging and saying, hey, I think I want to start this part time business on the side because all these layoffs are not looking good. It's not looking good
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
So I should probably get something going. So that's actually the beauty of it, is that there's so much flexibility. There are so many different business models. It doesn't have to be an all in, and it doesn't have to be taking that leap off the cliff. Sometimes you can just kind of take a gentle stroll and find your way to a new career.
Yeah. Another thing I normally hear people say when they are thinking of going into the business, sometimes you talk to people that why do you want to own a business? Why do you want to do this? And the answer will be, oh, because I want to have control over my life. I want to have control over my time. How does
Mhm.
this translate in real life? Do they really have that control or no?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say 100% yes, but even with my business, there are days where, I have clients booked like top to bottom of the day, and then somebody will call me at lunchtime, and when I'm supposed to be taking a break, all of a sudden I'm taking a call from a franchisor. So, I mean, best laid plans, right? I think for the most part, though, I would say the freedom that you have to be able to set your own schedule and to be able to determine, what type of lifestyle do you want. For, say, a coaching or consulting business, you are going to be able to work for the most part, your 9 to 5 schedule, taking a normal lunch break, no evenings, no weekends. But I think I would say probably the best advice I could give to somebody who is thinking about stepping into business ownership or does take that leap is to not allow the lifestyle to get ahead of the work that you need to do to get started in that business, because you really do need to pay your dues. There's no sense in investing in a franchise or investing your time into building, even if you're starting your own independent business. It's silly to do that unless you're willing to do the work. It's I think one of the worst things that ever happened in the past few years in terms of career is where you hear all of these people talking about creating passive sources of income.
Mm.
Things that are truly passive, I think that's going to be difficult. Savings accounts, money market, maybe stock, maybe, but really, if you're going to own a business, I think it's going to be difficult to be truly successful if you're not putting at least some effort into it. So when I hear passive or truly like fully absentee models, I usually will try to discourage my clients from pursuing something like that, because you get out of anything what you put into it. And if you put your heart and soul into it, within a couple of years, yes, you can probably step back and improve your lifestyle and have more flexibility. But in the beginning,
Mm.
you got to do the work, and that's okay.
Yeah. I know you when you were talking, you mentioned a little bit about it that some people they are still in the workforce, but they are looking for something to do on the side while they hold on to their job because they don't know what the future holds. So how can professionals explore ownership without quitting their job too soon?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the nice thing is that working with a coach like me from the Entrepreneur Source, we have the ability to work with you. For the most part, within your schedule. I have the ability to work with clients anywhere in the United States and Canada, and because I'm on the West Coast, um, oftentimes I'll be working with clients who are on the East Coast who may be working full time, but now they're done for the day, and for me, it's still maybe middle of the afternoon, and so they can take their own personal time to be able to explore business ownership options while they're still working full time. And so there are some, not a ton, I will say that, most franchisors are going to want you to be able to dedicate full time if at all possible. But there are certainly some options out there where an owner could come in at, they call it an executive level or a semi absentee level, where you can start a business, and maybe it's a business that does, something like estate sales. And so that's most often going to happen on the weekends. So that's not necessarily going to impact your time working a full-time job during the week. So there can be things like that, or other businesses where you are working with a team or a crew where you're just kind of spending a little bit of time throughout the day managing them, but then you would generally hire a general manager or a manager to be able to run the day to day of the business while you are still handling a full-time job. So I wouldn't recommend for anybody to try doing a full-time franchisee or business ownership model alongside a full-time job, because one of them is not going to work. So really,
Or maybe both of them will not even work.
right, yeah, potentially. So yeah, so it's being realistic with yourself, and that's part of that exploration process, or what we call the discovery process, is really learning, the different business models that you're reviewing, and see, like, what does that day to day really look like? Is that like, I've had clients who may be working full time, but their jobs are the time that they need to put into their job is very sporadic throughout the day. So it would allow them to do something kind of part time. But yeah, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share a client transformation story that really captured the impact of career ownership?
Yeah. I worked with a lady in I'll just say on the West Coast, who she had gone through a layoff and was, she'd been pretty frustrated, with her role. And part of it too was that there was just very little flexibility for her in terms of time. And then she had a family that lived on the East Coast. And in fact, I think she had a new grandbaby that she wanted to be able to visit, and she had requested time off from her employer, and they actually denied it. And she just thought, this is not the type of environment that I want for my life. I need to have that flexibility to be able to visit family. I mean, that is just nuts, she wouldn't have been granted that opportunity. So we looked at a number of businesses. Her husband was actually a business owner as well, which was really interesting. But she ended up finding a franchise in doing custom window coverings, and she was so excited because now this allows her to be able to work with clients in her home state, have a very flexible schedule, build up her business in her own time, and then she still has that ability to be able to visit family when necessary. But it was really cool. It was very inspiring to see her transformation from the time that we started working together, where she was just feeling very uncertain, very confused, frustrated, I think, too, with the path that her career had taken her to that point. And then to see her embracing this new challenge and being so excited and starting to go into what I call problem solving mode, where she was already like, okay, and this is where I can network. This is, I can set up like a little display in my husband's store, and then we can bring in some clients that way. Like, she had all these really great ideas, and I loved seeing that, and more than anything, seeing the joy in her face when she realized that she had been awarded a franchise and she was going to have this opportunity, and to just know that the prospects for her future were going to be very, very bright.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's usually a thing of joy when you have that your like time to yourself to be able to see family, also do what you love, do your business. That's Thanks for sharing that experience. Yeah.
For sure.
So how do finances factor into the decision without making it to become a barrier? Because most people, when they want to think about business, the first thing is that, oh, I don't have the finances to go ahead. Sometimes they don't even want to explore. They just assume that financial factor is a no-no. So how do we explore that without seeing it as a barrier?
Sure. Well, I would say, I have a couple of answers for that, So, one of the things that I will do with my clients, say once that, we kind of know up front that it's going to be a bit of a stretch for them to invest in anything right now. It could be
Yeah.
somebody who's a little earlier in career, or maybe they're just really at the beginning stages of exploration. What we'll do is we will take that opportunity to really work together for a longer period of time, and focus on that education piece, focus on the awareness piece, and share with them some of the possibilities could be and what the investment ranges could look like. And they, will take that information, go, okay, sounds good. And now they have a plan. Because, I like to use the example of, let's say you want to, that you would like to buy a new car, but you don't know if that car is going to be 5,000 or $50,000. So it doesn't, it's kind of hard to plan or to even dream about that unless you know that there is a possibility that you could maybe someday own that car, and you can put together a plan and start saving for that. And so what we'll do is sometimes we'll do that research, provide, present those options, and then my clients will, go on, maybe you take on a consulting role, or save up, or something, might happen, and then they'll come back, and then we'll go back in and then do the active discovery process where they actually meet with franchise reps. But for for other clients who are in a better financial situation where they do have money to invest, there are many, many different options that we can offer. I have a number of funding partners that I can connect my clients with, who can help them, with anything from, let's say, an SBA loan to other types of, unsecured, loan products. There are, sometimes some of my clients will do HELOC loans if they own their own property. And then another lending or funding option, I guess, that a lot of people are not aware of, is something called the ROBS program, and it stands for Rollover for Business Startups, and it's actually a government program that allows you to access either a 401k or an IRA, it has to be from a former employer, but it allows you to invest those funds, essentially invest in yourself, without having to face any taxes or penalties, mainly penalties for early withdrawal. So it's a very unique and, kind of interesting method of funding a business that most people are just not even aware of. And it's been a great solution for many of my clients, to be able to access that. So we have all of those partners that are available, and they also take a similar educational approach. So they're never going to rush my clients into filling out applications or anything like that. They'll just meet with them to say, hey, listen, based on your financial picture, these are the different options that you would be eligible for. And then when the timing is right, if and when it makes sense, then my clients already have a partner that they can go to and move forward without having to delay potentially owning a business.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So, if someone is listening to this episode and they want to take just one action, what will you advise the action to be?
Yeah, wow. Well, I would say the number one thing is to keep an open mind and make no assumptions. I think that there's so many people who will, they enter into something like this and then just automatically assume, oh, that's going to be too expensive, or oh, there's no way I could ever do that. And so I think that if you can kind of keep that open mind and be open to the possibilities, that it is possible to reinvent and reimagine your career, even at later stages in life. I think that that's the only thing that I could ever really ask for my clients. And if they can do that, if they can approach it from that open, kind of a open mind, perspective, it makes such a big difference for them as they are then learning and exploring about different options.
Okay. Where can our listeners learn more about your work, or if they want to have a conversation with you, how can they reach you?
Sure. Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I have a very unique name, so it's very easy to find me, Sandy Duplage, on LinkedIn. I also have my website that, hopefully you'll be able to link for the listeners. On my website, there is a link to my calendar to schedule a call with me. And one thing to note that I think that a lot of people don't realize is that the services that I provide, that any entrepreneurship coach provides, are all complementary. So we do not charge for our services, regardless of how long we work with our clients. The way that we get compensated, so there's no, there's nothing funny that's going on here, is that if any of our clients are are awarded a franchise with one of our franchise partners, our franchise partners pay us a placement fee. So it's very similar to, say, a real estate broker. But I think it is a really unique business model, and it just creates a very safe space, a safe environment where our clients can work with us without feeling that pressure of, oh my gosh, we've now been, talking for 6 hours and I only have 2 hours left in my package. Like there's no sense of urgency there. So I work at my client's pace, and just help them to discover what's out there, and how they can maybe change their lives.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Sandy. It was nice having this discussion with you. I think I've also learned a lot from this our conversation, and I'm going to put the link to your website in the description on the video, and also the link to your LinkedIn, so that listeners can connect with you. Thank you so
Sounds great.
much. Do you have any final words?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess, you can spend your entire career working and doing all of this work for some huge corporation that maybe one day will just decide you're just a number on a spreadsheet and now your job is done. And instead, maybe think about taking all of that time and effort that you spend in your career and maybe invest in yourself, start something for yourself where all of that work, all of that energy that you put into everything that you do every day, now the beneficiaries, or the direct beneficiaries, are going to be you and your family. So yeah, it's either you work to build somebody else's dream, or you can work to build your own. So yeah, would
All
love
right.
to be a part of that if anybody needs the support.
All right. Thank you very much. And to the listener, remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more episodes like this. Take care.